what brought you to Plymouth Notch originally?
Well, my grandfather was actually named for Calvin Coolidge and Herbert Hoover. He was born shortly before the election of 1928, and his parents had enough children that they weren't all that imaginative. And for him, he wanted to understand who his namesake was, and it started a love affair with the village, which he then passed on to his children and grandchildren. So I was probably 10 months the first time I was made to have that experience, and then it started my own relationship with the village. And when the job came up recently, I applied and was very, very happy to be able to start a new role and a new love affair as its administrator.
So what are the highlights of Plymouth Notch?
For me, I think I have the deepest connection standing in the homestead. When you are a visitor looking in the room where he became president, it's just really amazing to think about how someone occupying the lowliest office in the nation as a notary public can raise their son to literally the highest office. And so for me to contemplate what that means for the country in which I live, I have the deepest emotional connection in that location.
That's great. What do visitors usually take away from going to visit?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are impressed with the fact that someone who comes from such a remote corner of the country and from such a lowly environment can pursue academia, can gain new insights in the world, and ultimately become the commander-in-chief. So a lot of them are very impressed with how humble his home is, the fact that it didn't have indoor plumbing and electric until it came into state possession in the 1950s. Just these kinds of factoids really strike home with them to understand that even or imagine that themselves can ascend to such a high office or honor.
And what are some of the things? I know you have a museum and an education center. What are some of the exhibits that you
Absolutely. So we are a village. We have the general store where the Coolidge family first rented. His father and mother rented the home behind it and ran the store and ultimately bought it. So we are able to see things like the counters that Calvin Coolidge made in between high school and college. We also have the 1924 Summer White House, which was occupying the Grange Hall of the village. And that's where Coolidge, as a young boy, learns how to be involved in citizenship and town politics, and where he, as president, comes back home to work. We also have the school where he attended, and the cheese factory that he and his father and the local members of the community operated, the house where he is ultimately sworn in as president, and a few other barns and additional buildings where we talk about what rural life in Vermont looks like.
Well, now that you've been at this conference for a while and hearing some of the speakers, has anybody mentioned anything, or have you gotten any new ideas of things that maybe haven't been as emphasized about Coolidge to the public that you think would deserve more attention?
I think we at the site are very easily engaged in conversations about his boyhood and his young adulthood and how that formulated the person that he became as president. But I also think that through this conference I've more fully realized that we also need to talk about the culture and the politics happening around Coolidge, not those that were created by Coolidge. So really examining what American life looked like pre-1920s and moving into that decade.
Yeah, the context makes a lot of difference.
It certainly does.
If you got to make your dream exhibit, what would you want to do?
Well, I think that we are actually currently curating a very special exhibit, which might be my dream exhibit. We are comparing Coolidge's homegrown ceremony, the oath of office that occurred on August 3rd, 1923, with the ascension of other early 20th century world leaders. So how does the lamp and the Bible that were used as part of that ceremony compare with maybe the crown of the King of England or the religious rites of the enthronement of the Japanese emperor? So really looking at who the man Coolidge is and how that appears in that ceremony, as well as what statements that might make about American democracy.